There's a 911 call to the city of Bartow, to the Azalea Apartments where they live, where the mother said, you know, the child's pulsometer is not working correctly. This is really not an emergency. You don't need red lights and sirens, but we'd like fire to come over and check the baby. So they responded to the house in a normal, routine fashion. And when they arrived, they saw this child hooked up to a ventilator. And this ventilator was working appropriately, but there appeared to be no life in the child.
Hey special family, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, hi, I'm Autism Mom, and on this channel we talk about autism and everything in between. Today we're doing another fair use reaction video. I have put a warning out front, so if you're gonna be triggered with the video that is coming, I ask you to come back and see the next video and just skip this one because it goes very deep. This is the story of a 3-year-old child. The parents are Ephraim Williams and Takesha Williams, who have not done parenting right. Let's take a look at the video.
So we're going to tell you what this child experienced at the hands of their parents because the parents didn't do the right thing. I want to introduce you to the parents, Takesha Williams, who's 24, and Ephraim Allen Jr., who's 25. Here's when it all began. In July of 2020, when this beautiful baby boy was only 10 months old, he suffered a near-drowning experience at a short-term rental in the northeast area of the county. A near drowning. He toddled off into the pool. There was life-saving efforts to try to save this baby's life. When they got him to the hospital at the conclusion of all of their valiant efforts, the child had no brain activity, could not even blink his eyes, cannot move his extremities, and quite frankly, it was recommended to the parents that he be removed from any life-saving measures because the child would forever be in a coma with no brain activity. They didn't want to do that. So ultimately, these parents were sent home with their infant on a ventilator, a permanent ventilator, with a stomach tube, and health care, home health care 3 times a week. Now that went on for over 2 years. As of last October, the parents began to reject the home health care. Despite the health care company's best efforts, they would not be home, would not answer the door. So the last time home health care dealt with this child was in October of last year. Understand, all of this was occurring at absolutely no cost to the parents. In fact, the mother was receiving benefits to stay home and take care of this baby.
Okay, so you've seen the first part. How a 10-month-old has a near-drown experience is beyond me. How they were allowed to take this baby home with the ventilator is beyond me too, but they were able to do that. Nobody even checked in during this period. If the child is on a ventilator and you can never get them, they don't answer their phone, you can't get in the house, some bells must be going off somewhere. But no, let's go to the next part.
So let's fast forward to Friday, May the 12th. There's a 911 call to the city of Bartow, to the Azalea Apartments where they live, where the mother said, you know, the child's pulsometer is not working correctly. This is really not an emergency. You don't need red lights and sirens, but we'd like fire to come over and check the baby. So they responded to the house in a normal, routine fashion. And when they arrived, they saw this child hooked up to a ventilator. And this ventilator was working appropriately, but there appeared to be no life in the child. This child had an extremely extended stomach, and it was green. This child was rotting in the bed. They rushed this baby to the hospital, where for over an hour, or about an hour, between EMS, fire services, and medical personnel, they tried to save this baby's life. At the hospital, when they started taking off the diapers and the clothes, they noticed ulcers, large gaping wounds through the body down into the muscle. They noticed there was no rectum. There was just a big gaping hole where the intestines and the spinal column was visible. They notified the Bartow Police Department, who immediately said, "Hey, we need the sheriff's office to assist us. This is a very complex investigation." So our homicide team responded. We noticed immediately the child smelled of decomposition. We went back to the house where the child laid lifeless as it had for 2 years and smelled decomposition in the room. The medical doctor at the emergency room said this child has not had the appropriate care for months. The medical examiner at the autopsy said the child had sepsis, bilateral pneumonia, stage 5 ulcers, obvious not child neglect. So we talked to the parents and we go, what is going on here? They said, well, they didn't want DCF to take their children, so they didn't call. But they had tried to get more home health care.
So it all boils down to they let the baby die and rot in the bed until they realize if this get any worse, we're in some serious trouble. But they were already in serious trouble. They didn't call a medical professional because they were scared their other kids were going to be taken away from them. As if at this point that was not going to happen. No, the kids not only will be taken away from you, you will also be landing in jail.
So we introduced ourselves to the potential health care providers, and they said, we accepted them. We went there and wanted to see the child. They said, don't wake the child up today. This is just an introduction. And the next time they went, nobody answered the door. So obviously they were trying to create a facade or to say, well, we asked for help. They let this baby rot and die in its bed. I've done this for 5 decades. I have seen thousands of children abused, hundreds of children murdered at the hands of parents. I have never seen the horror that we saw with this poor child at the hands of these 2 folks. I talked to all the detectives in the room. Have you ever seen anything like this in your life? No one has. You can't even imagine how horrible the wounds, the ulcers that this child endured at the hands of these folks. They're charged with aggravated manslaughter, among other charges, at this time. They were locked up in the county jail with a bond of $100,000. The state attorney's office actually filed direct once we got the initial medical examiner's report. The state attorney's office, Brian Haas, our state attorney, who is simply the very best, is game on every day, and I'm certain if you talk to him, he would be as mortified as we all are that this baby was left in this condition. My job is to protect children, to protect everyone. But my heart is with protecting the very youngest, because you see, they have no choice of where they live, or what they eat, or what they wear, or who they associate with. It's up to parents to make the right decisions. And I suggest to you the right decisions haven't been made since this child was 10 months old and suffered a horrible, horrible, horrible tragedy. And then I suggest to you, and this is only supposition on my part, they just got tired of the baby. They just got tired of the intensive care this child needed. And as a result, the child laid there and suffered and suffered and suffered, till finally there was no life left in the baby. There's nothing else I can tell you. If you have any questions, there's still nothing else I can tell you. You know what we know.
Curious about the other children, or do they appear to be in good health?
The other children appear to be in good health.
Sheriff, beyond what the legal system can exact on these two, what do they deserve?
Well, the legal system can only do what the legal system can do. But God's not happy. And it'll be up to God past what the legal system can do. But there's no way, no ability to imagine the torture this child has endured.
I'm not exactly sure how to phrase this, but is there any part of you that says at least the child appears to have been unconscious for this entire time?
The indication to us is the child has been comatose from the very beginning, to the point there was no reaction. The child couldn't even blink his eyes. So my prayer would be that the child was in a deep enough state that he wasn't aware of what was happening to him. But I don't know that.
You mentioned that they were concerned about DCF taking the other children away. Do you know of any other interactions with DCF over the years like that, or that be their first job?
I would be hesitant to release the DCF information. I think once before they had an investigation way back in the day, but nothing significant.
So is there a chance that these children will be removed?
Well, first off, they have to be removed because they're in jail, and ultimately our goal is to send these folks to prison for just as long as we can send them to prison, and then from there God's got to take over. But I've never seen, there's not words to explain this. There's not words to describe this. You think in this world we live in, it's impossible for parents or anyone to treat a child like this. They let this baby lay in that bed and rot to death.
Okay, they've been charged with child neglect and great bodily harm. And I think they're seeking the death penalty or the electric chair. Here is the write-up of the charges. I hope they get the same punishment they put this child through. But let's go to the comment section. First commenter says, the trauma that these first responders, detectives, etc. are dealing with. Imagine going there as a firefighter, because They said it wasn't that important to bring out the ambulance, the cops, and the whole nine. It was only the pulse ox acting up. But in real life, it was a rotten body. The next commenter says, they just wanted that check every month, not the child. He's in God's hands now, thank God. And you're so right. They did all of this to this child for a check. Next commenter, 100K bond. I can't believe they got any bond given the sheer depravity of this crime. I agree with you. But I know of cases where they didn't get a bond, so I don't even understand how this... Girl, you're right. Next commenter, I pray this baby did not feel the pain of those ulcers. Also, home health should have reported when no entrance was allowed. That part. I'm like, why wasn't home health aid calling another department to tell them like, hey, this baby is on a ventilator and we can't get to this child. And they're not medical professionals. Like, how do they know what to do with this child? Next commenter, they need to be looking closer at the drowning that has this poor baby in that condition to begin with. Correct. How does a 10-month-old go through a near drowning experience? Where was the parent? He didn't walk to the pool or to the tub or whatever. Where were the parents? And you send the child home with them? Next commenter, thank God that poor child was already gone so that he didn't have to feel or be aware of any of it. But the poor siblings of this baby, yeah, they're gonna need some good therapy. Next, this is beyond infuriating. People like me who cannot have children but so desperately wanted one, I am at complete loss for words. You and a lot of people. Next, if someone's collecting money for a care for a child, you would think they would need to check to see if the person was still alive. Definitely. But they didn't. Next, it's all about the money. They are horrible parents. May they pay what they have done. Correct. Next commenter, I've seen stage 5 decubitus to the spinal column before in an extreme elder neglect case. There's little to no coming back from that, and it is agony. That poor child. Next commenter, this poor baby. I can't even imagine. Everyone failed this baby. You mean to tell me they had no friends and family checking on them and the baby, knowing that the baby was on a respirator or a ventilator, right? Next, this baby was a paycheck for these parents, nothing more. Unfortunately, with our justice system, they won't get what they deserve. The same death. You're right. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this story. And I'll catch you in the next one.